Here.
Alderman McClatchy?
Here.
Alderman Harding?
Here.
Alderman Strack?
Here.
Alderman Devine?
Here.
Alderwoman Miller?
Here.
Mayor Jett?
Here. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with public comment. This is for any comments that are regarding items that are not on the agenda this evening. So if there's an action item that you're willing to talk about or a comment that you want to make, please bring that up at that item, and I'll give you that opportunity, okay? So this is any items that are not on the agenda that you'd like to come up and give a public comment. Is there anyone that would like to do that? Can you please state your name and address for public record?
Laura Conter, 3803 West Timothy Lane. First, I'd like to thank you for resolving the problem on Dale Street. Thank you. And I would like to have you look into changing the dog laws in McHenry. I myself have 2 large Afghan hounds that I walk on a leash, and they are in my backyard with a 6-foot fence. I've had 2 of my neighbors attacked by dogs, or their dogs were attacked. I myself have been charged with dogs that are on their own property but off the leash, and you don't know what will incite a dog. They don't like the look of you. They don't like you on a bicycle, and it's very dangerous. It was a year ago, a man was attacked, and he's in his 70s and never recuperated from the injuries that he suffered because a dog that's always out and always pleasant charged his bike and he went over the top of it. I do think the laws have to be changed in McHenry, and we have to buckle down when people and their dogs are attacked. I have a neighbor that now walks around and she has a concealed weapon license to walk her dog because she was attacked, and so physically a surgery that she's needed and still follow up over a year later, and her dog. Is that what we are? We just have these dogs running around and hurting people. So I would appreciate it if you look into it. I didn't realize I had to file a Freedom of Information Act with the police department. I'd like to know how many attacks there actually will have been. I will do that tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Raymond LaFrancis, 409 North Dale Avenue. My question is not pertaining to my area. My question is in the downtown area on Green Street where the old savings bank was and now is, of course, empty. And I haven't read anything recently in the paper as to what the city is planning for that particular area. You've done a nice job with the Riverwalk and everything. It looks really nice. And Green Street has really grown and seems like it's booming right now. But that is one spot that I think maybe the city needs to maybe take a second look at. I'm sure that you probably have had some ideas on that, but I haven't heard or seen anything. So I'm interested in seeing what the village, the city's going to do about that. The second question has to do with a safety question that I feel is an issue on Main Street at 31 and Main Street where that new record shop is. There's I believe there's 3 parking spaces on the west side of the street and just north of where that corner is. There's the bar on one side and the new record shop on the left. There's 3 parking spaces, and I do come that way often, especially from Walgreens. It's difficult to make a turn, or either way, right or left. when those spaces are filled. And I'm just curious as to if there's a safety issue there. I've followed through once several years ago and asked about it and nothing happened. I just want to bring your attention to that, to see if that might be a possibility to maybe eliminate those parking areas at that particular spot, because we have people coming from 120 going south, and there's at times there is a lot of traffic there. So if you're aware of where that is, if I've made that clear enough for you, if that's something you could look into, I think it's a safety feature for the town and for the people that live here, including myself. If you would look into that, I'd appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Sure.
Is there anyone else that'd like to make a public comment? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, items 5A through 5J. Is there any items that council would like to pull for separate consideration? Alderman Glab?
C, D, and E.
All right, B, D, and E. Any others?
C, D.
Oh, C, D, and E.
Oh,
Thank you. Any others? Seeing none? I'm looking for a motion and second for 5A, B, F, G, H, I, and J. Alderman Strack?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second. McClatchy? Alderman McClatchy for a second. Discussion on these items? Clerk, please call.
Alderman Strack?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderman Glad?
Yes.
Alderman Harding?
Yes.
Alderman Devine?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Next item on the agenda is 5C, that was pulled by Alderman Glab. Ordinance amending Title 10, Chapter 22, Section 10-22-4, Landmark Commission, reducing the membership of the Landmark Commission from 12 to 9. Mayor, actually, you want to go ahead and take this?
Sure. Andy, what questions do you have for me?
Yeah, just basically more than anything else is the main reason supposedly that we're going from 12 to 9 is because of the fact that we haven't been able to fill that quota, and the fact that with 12 it makes it harder for a quorum. And I just wonder if the amount of members that need to be there for a quorum can be changed without having to take and reduce the open seats, because you know, they're very difficult at times for certain organizations of our city to fill in the memberships for people to serve on these. And if somebody wanted to be on the Landmark Commission, it would be travesty to take and tell them, well, all 9 spots are taken up and there's no open areas. And wouldn't it be easier to fix the problem by just changing can we legally change the amount of numbers per quorum on that?
For a quorum?
Yes. Considering it isn't an elected body, it is just a.
No, but it's still an open meeting quorum that's defined by the open meetings law, so you can't change it unless it's 5. Well, even then you can't change it.
So we can't change the quorum. Okay. That's.
And it is a struggle, this isn't the only town that's struggling with these things.
Okay. That was my only question.
Okay. Any other council members have any questions, comments regarding this item? I'm looking for a motion to approve 5C as presented. Alderman Miller?
I'll make the motion to approve 5C as presented.
Thank you. Alderman Harding for a second.
I'll second that motion.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Harding?
Yes.
Alderman Devine?
Yes.
Alderman Strack?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Glad?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Next item that was pulled by Alderman Glab is 5D, ordinance amending Title 7, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 4, Parking Regulations, Section 7-4-7, permanent parking only of the McHenry City Code. Alderman Glab?
Yeah. You're looking at, I guess it opened up my eyes a little bit more to see what we're charging for those permits. $10 a year. We're spending hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of to fix these parking lots. And, employees out that area get a parking permit, to use those spots for $10 a year. I think we need to look at, and I'm not saying an exorbitant amount, but I think $10 a year is a little ludicrous to be just charging that little. It is definitely a positive for the businesses as well as the employees to have a place to park, and I think it's worth a lot more than $10 a year.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments regarding this item by council? Chief, would you like to chime in on this part?
Sure, typically the original permit ordinance was for $60 a year. It was originally designed for residential parking for the apartments above the downtown business districts. To allow them the exemption from, what we used to have was 2-hour parking, and now, 4-hour parking, and the overnight exemption, so they're allowed to park in those designated municipal parking spots, overnight, because they live there. And what we found is, we have a surplus of permit parking spots based on what we've been selling every year, but we're having a hard time trying to incentivize the businesses to bring their employees to park them in these permanent spots. So when we go out and we do parking enforcement, the feedback we get is we're writing a lot of business owners and their employees tickets, for the 4-hour violation. So we're trying to incentivize them to actually want to go and park in the permit parking spots, so it actually opens up the more premium front municipal parking spots and the on-street parking for the residents to enjoy the downtown business district. So in the feedback we got from a lot of the businesses that, the part-time employees that only work so many hours a week in a lot of these restaurants, and so could not afford higher pricing on a permit. Right now, we're just trying to navigate them over to there. And I think I put in the supplement that we realize that we have to come back and take another look at this as part of our downtown parking plan in the next 12 months as well, but at least it gives us an opportunity to bring those people and hopefully get them into the permit parking to see what that does for opening up spots, because as council knows, we definitely still have a parking problem in our downtown business district. We do not have enough spots.
Chief, what's the fine for the parking downtown?
$25.
$25 for one incident?
Correct.
And you're talking for 1 year, they're only paying $10? I think, like I said, I just think it needs to be looked at. I know some of these fees were created years ago, and take a look at what gas prices are now, take a look at what minimum wage is now. Everything's going up, and yet, we're not doing anything with our fees, and I just think we need to look at it and see if we can't, bump those up a little bit more. Not saying that we wanna gouge them, but, let's face it, to have a parking spot for $10 a year, $60 a year for a renter, and we're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to pave, and, nobody pays my parking spot, which is my driveway, but, I just think that we ought to look at that, a little bit closer, and I'm not saying tonight, but down the road here.
And I think the majority of us realize that this is, once again, it's to incentivize those to park off the street, away from the businesses. Talking to several business owners, this is obviously, has been a concern for years, it's not just now. It's not a revenue stream for us, even the $60 wasn't a revenue stream at all. And also, it's hard to find employees for all these businesses as it is. So to tell them they gotta buy a permit for $60 a year, some of them don't even work a ton of hours, or young kids, or whatever the case may be. I think that's, the whole point is just to have a plan, and it's really to cover the cost of the sticker, the tag, or whatever the case may be. But this was never a revenue stream, as far as I'm concerned, so. Any other, Alderman Strack, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. I think the whole point of the $10, Chief, and you can clarify this, and I think you already have, is to get those people to move away from those front row parking spots. If we raise that fee now, there's no incentive for them to move and go somewhere else.
Correct, yeah.
So I think we have to keep it affordable for now, so that they will actually utilize the spots that are here and available.
And they don't get the full benefit, they can't park overnight, and they have to prove you know, to get that permit, they'll come and see Monty, and they'll have to prove that they're an employee in a down business district. So, and not anybody can just go get one of these permits, so.
Thank you.
Alderman Miller?
It may just be a reminder too, that we need to re-incentivize or remind our business owners that they're there as they're re-employing people and saying, you know, where do my people park? Because they might have forgotten, it might have been a mind slip that, oh, I forgot that there's parking for them. Because sometimes employees come and go and you just don't think about where they parking. You tell them not to park out front, so they park out front to the next guy. So we might just need to re-educate, especially our downtown business people.
So this is, you know, after this, if this gets passed, we'll be meeting with all the businesses that this affects, individually, and make sure that they are aware, and then also try to get them, once again, to incentivize them to park in these locations. Because there is some business owners and so forth that parks right in front. So, all right, any other questions, comments by council on this item? Okay, looking for a motion and a second to approve 5D as presented. Alderman Santi?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Alderman McClatchy? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Santi?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Glad?
No.
Alderman Harding?
Yes.
Alderman Strack?
Yes.
Alderman Devine?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Next item is 5E, pulled by Alderman Glad, award of contract in the amount of $62,674 to Christopher B. Burke Engineering Services for the Knox Park parking lot rehabilitation project. Alderman Glad, go ahead.
Yeah, my only concern is the fact that this is coming out of general fund dollars, and why do we have a parks impact fee and a parks separate account if we never use it for any of these for resurfacing and all that? I mean, it seems like we're always looking at dipping in the general fund when these things are supposed to be paid traditionally out of the impact fees that we charge developers. And I mean, I think we've got quite a few dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the developer donation fees.
Traditionally, our impact fees have not been used for maintenance items. They've just been used for new recreational opportunities, and so that's where we try to be protective of that in those new recreational opportunities. For example, when we added onto the parking lot, the brand new parking lot up here for the rec center, we did use the, at that point, it was recreation center fund, which was taken from part of our developer donations. But in general, we do our best to use, when we put new recreational opportunities, to use the developer donations for that. But if it's just a maintenance, a strict maintenance, that's where we look to preserve those fees and go to the general fund.
I don't agree with the way we were using that money, and I can't support it because of that. I just think we've got so many things that need to be done in the city, and to sit and hold back on developer donation funds from the Parks Department and use it out of general fund isn't the right way to go.
Any other questions, comments by council? Looking for a motion and a second to approve 5E as presented. Alderman Santi?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Alderman Strack for the second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Santi?
Yes.
Alderman Strack?
Yes.
Alderman Glad?
No.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Harding?
Yes.
Alderman Devine?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Thank you, council. First action item on the agenda is 6A, motion to approve an economic incentive agreement between the City of McHenry and Advanced Management LLC in the amount not to exceed $1.5 million. Director Martin, can you go ahead and present this?
Thank you, Mayor. Attached is an economic incentive agreement between Advanced Real Estate Management LLC and the City of McHenry. Advanced Real Estate Management LLC is the owner-management company of the current shopping center that is home to Kohl's, Aldi, Michaels, etc. I should note, they don't manage the part with Kohl's that with the rest of the center you do. It's McHenry Town Center, formerly Rudolph Town Center. The purpose of this agenda item and agreement is to provide assistance in completing improvements to the center, including a parking lot and as well as 2 tenant build-outs, and keep 2 tenants in the City of McHenry. Alton, Five Below are leaving shops at Fox River. This agreement keeps them in the market, in this market, and allows them to move to McHenry Town Center. Their broker says they would leave the market if they don't move to McHenry Town Center. Staff is proposing a sales tax rebate over a 20-year term to assist in the improvements. Sales tax rebate is in front of you. Doug Vitale from Advanced Real Estate Management LLC is in the audience if you have any questions of him. Otherwise, I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Doug. I'm gonna open up for, I'm gonna go ahead and ask for a motion and a second. We've changed some things here, so, 6A, I'm looking for a motion and a second on this item. Alderman Strack?
No motion, as
Thank you.
presented.
Thank you. Second? Alderman Miller?
I'll second.
Thank you. Go ahead and open up for discussion by council. Alderman Strack, go ahead.
The petitioner's here. Hey, sir.
Can you step up to the podium and, if you don't mind, state your name and position.
Doug Vitale with Advanced Real Estate Management.
Thank you.
Good evening, Doug, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
In the application here for us tonight, there's Exhibit C. I'm just wondering, there's a line item in there that's improvements. I'm wondering if you have an itemized list of some improvements that you're planning on in that larger item that's listed in there for the 1.125 worth of improvements. I'm just wondering if you have a list of what those improvements might be for the rest of the development there.
We do have that list. It's comprised basically of replacing all the rooftop units, completely gutting both spaces that Ulta and Five Below are talking about taking, upgrading the electrical. For Five Below, we're doing the majority of their build-out, light fixtures, floor coverings, et cetera. For Ulta, it's more of a vanilla box, gut the space, put up a new demising partition, white box everything, get the floors polished and buffed by somebody a vendor that they use nationally. All of the tenant build-outs beyond the landlord work that the leases require of us is something that they would permit for and do themselves, but it's expensive.
Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we had, a list of what those items are. If you could provide that to us, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, so here, so the tenant improvements are not included in the credit toward the sales rebate, right?
The majority of Five Below's improvements are included in the landlord work scope. For the Ulta space, we're gutting it, providing new rooftop units.
Right, but those are all landlord paid expenses, right?
Those are things that we are paying for, correct?
Okay, so really what we need, and I think this should be attached to the agreement, is those are specifications, right? I don't know if the plans and specifications, do you have those ready?
We have the landlord work scopes that we can provide. That's basically what it is. Our plans won't be prepared and submitted until we have everything wrapped up. But at that point, we will prepare the plans.
You're still waiting for signed leases.
I'm sorry?
You're still waiting for signed leases.
We are, correct.
So I remember that, yeah. You have one, but you're waiting for one, right? So what we talked about before the meeting with the alderman here was, we'd like to, so we know, you're only getting reimbursed for what's spent on the landlord improvement. So if you only spend $800,000, that's the cap, right?
Well, we are spending in excess of $1.5 million by the time we're done.
But if somebody, does some free work for you, and you only spend $800,000, that's all you're gonna get, right?
There's nobody out there that's gonna do any free work for us.
It's a tough way. So anyway, we'd like to attach the specifications so that it shows what you're planning on doing, and then the receipts you have to kind of meld together.
Well, what we can, and what I think.
Because the agreement's short. The agreement only says, in a vague way, what's the agreement say? It says,
Schedule C, I believe. Exhibit C just says additional improvements.
Landlord construction obligation, $1,250,000, and we never really defined what those are. And I said the easiest way to define that is to include the scope of work, or what I refer to as the specifications. So, we need something to.
What we can provide is, we can provide the landlord work scopes, We can provide the cost breakdown from the trades. on-
Okay, those are estimated, right?
I'm sorry?
Those are estimated costs?
Those are the budgeted costs until we get the actual drawings in, yeah.
Yeah.
As most things go, there are many things now that are being negotiated in the leases that are over and above. Tenants enjoy trying to embellish as they go along and negotiate, but
Mhm.
the 1.5 million that we're talking about overall is not something that we're gonna fall short of, I think.
Okay, well, that's what I know, but on our side, we need to make sure it reaches that number,
Yeah.
so we just need some verification. So if we could amend this to attach those specifications to Exhibit C and reference them, that would be good.
Yeah,
Are you willing to do
we
that?
can provide that scope, we can provide the cost breakdowns from the budgets.
Okay, so I would suggest amending the motion subject to that condition and the second, and go forward.
What about receipts? I know we
The
had.
receipts are in here.
Okay.
So the receipts are required, you know that, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, any other discussion by council?
Yeah.
Do you want to amend the motion?
Please. So,
Amending the motion
to amend.
as proposed, subject to the condition that those specifications or landlord
Work scope.
work scope be attached to Exhibit C to evidence what the work is that they're going to perform.
You got that?
As presented by Attorney McCarthy.
We're already getting the receipts. I'm just looking for what they're proposing
Right.
to improve.
Right,
So the receipts we're good on.
okay. Alderman Miller, you're,
Second, please.
okay.
You got that, Mon?
Got it.
Perfect.
All right, any, Alderman Glad, you have a question?
Yes, okay. This sales tax rebate is off the sales tax of all the stores in a shopping center, correct?
Excluding Kohl's, yeah.
Okay. Where is all the criteria from the other companies as far as the fact that they're gonna give us those figures? Is Kohl's gonna give us those figures?
You need to look at that guy.
We get them from the state, all of the sales figures.
I'm sorry?
The sales figures come from the state for all businesses in the city.
We have access to those.
We have access to
Correct.
Kohl's sales, are
Well, Kohl's is separated from this. Kohl's is not part of this. Kohl's is separate,
Yeah. Excluding Kohl's, we have the rest of the center.
the rest of the center.
Okay. So another question I've got is how did the parking lot ever get into the condition it's in? I mean, don't we have ordinances that address this, as far as, I mean, right now, I mean, I drove through there about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, actually before this agenda came out, I go, holy cow, I feel like a roller coaster in there. I mean, how did it get that bad?
Well, if I may, for the last year, we had some issues, just trying to keep tenants in the spaces. So for the last year, we weren't able to get the funds together to take care of that. We now have that contracted for, and that work is being started at the end of next week. So we'll be milling down the areas. We're not just patching potholes, we're literally milling down the areas, putting down new asphalt, rolling it, reseal coating, restriping the entire lot front and back. And again, that happens next week.
I guess I was addressing it to staff, is as far as, aren't there ordinances, as far as property maintenance on commercials like this? That would allow this to get that bad?
We do have ordinances, yes.
Well, oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're not even saying.
I'm over here. Yeah, yes, we do, and actually there are multiple parking lots within the city of McHenry that are in very poor shape that we are currently working with owners. This one, in particular, we held off because of this agreement, but there are ordinances, yes.
I mean, how did it get this bad? You know, and
Use.
how is it that we're paying to maintain these shopping centers?
The same way the Knox Park parking lot gets bad, the same way this parking lot gets bad. It's just foul, snow, ice, you know.
I understand
funding
that, I
isn't always
understand
there.
that. I'm talking about how it, well, I think you know the point I'm making, and I'll leave it at that.
So since beginning of, well, I mean, since beginning of this year, February, we've had this conversation about trying to get this deal done. So we're trying to work with the property owner, and also knowing that this agreement would come into play. And obviously, it's been a tough year and a half for this property owner, so I think that's where we sit at this point. So at this point, we're trying to better the whole property and work with this property owner. Alderman Santi?
Yes, I'm glad that we're able to do this. I would like to see, I'd like to, be able to see these parking lots, because there's definitely multiple parking lots that just do need to get some repair work done from time to time. But I want to go back to a statement. We were talking about numbers at the start here. The 1.5 is the cap number, correct? Yes.
Yes,
That's
it is.
Okay, that's the cap number. All right, just want to make sure that everybody understood that. All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments by council?
The lower of 1.5 or the receipt.
Yeah, but understand,
It
I
just come to me.
I know the numbers, I'm just making sure that we're not going above that. Thank you.
Alderman Glab?
Now, how old is the shop?
15 years old, I want to say.
I'm sorry?
I believe it's 15 years old.
15 years old?
I believe so, yeah.
And now we're going into a 20-year term, as far as the tax rebate for the next 20 years. On a shopping center that has to be repaired, it's only 15 years old. Where are we gonna be in 15 years?
The money for the repairs on the parking lot aren't part of what we're asking the assistance on. We're spending that money now. That's got nothing to do with the $1.5 million that we're asking for assistance on.
It's for build outs, rooftops.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions, comments by council? Thank you, sir. You can go ahead and have a seat.
Thank you.
I'm gonna open it up for public comment. Is there anyone that, in the audience that would like to get up into the podium and, make a public comment at this time? See none? Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Strack?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Devine?
Yes.
Alderman Harding?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Glad?
No.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is 6B, motion to grant a fence variance to Munson Ski and Marine located at 3112 West Lincoln Road to allow a 5-foot front yard setback in lieu of a required 30-foot front yard setback. Director Palarek, you want to go ahead and present?
Thank you, Mayor. As you are all aware, Munson Ski and Marine is in full construction, putting up the new building as we speak. They've had a pretty good year with both rentals and their slips, and they're looking to continue to expand out there. They are requesting a 5-foot setback along Lincoln Road in lieu of the 30-foot required for a fence for security purposes, screening of the boat storage allowed under the conditional use. The petitioner does have representation here tonight, so if there's any questions that I can't answer, I can get those answered for you.
Thank you, Ross. I'm looking for a motion and a second for 6B as presented. Alderman McClatchy and Alderman Glad.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion by council on this item. Alderman Glad, go ahead.
Just want to say that, bringing that fence forward, number one, it takes and gives more exposure to Munson, as well as gives them more room. So I think it's a win-win. Anybody that's traveled east over the years has seen Munson Marine and see how they maintain their outside of their facility there, and I don't have a problem with this.
Thank you. Alderman Santos, go ahead.
Well, if you've been up and down Lincoln Road and crossed Pearl Street Bridge heading that way, there's a significant amount of improvement that they're doing out there, and I applaud Munson's for that and their what they're doing at that facility. And they're really moving along at a very good pace. I know this is the middle of their season, and they're putting up buildings and trying to keep up with all their boat traffic and what's going on in regards to sales and gasoline and that sort of thing. couple of quick questions I had, possibly for Director Palrecki. When I look at the drawing on Lincoln and I see when the fence comes back into their building or their concrete there, this green, that's gonna be green space there, or is
Yes,
that parking?
that's green space and landscaping. No parking up there.
No parking up there? And do we tax on boat rental? Is there a tax on boat rental?
Boat sales.
Just boat sales, right, not rentals, okay, thank you, no further questions.
Any other questions by council? Open up for public, comment. Is there anyone in the public, that would like to make a public comment regarding this item? See none, clerk, please call the roll for 6B.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
You yelled at him, you said yes.
That was quick. Alderman Glass? Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderman Harding?
Yes.
Alderman Stratt?
Yes.
Alderman Devine?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
No.
Thank you, council. Next item on the agenda is 6C, is a motion to approve an ordinance granting approval of various text amendments to the zoning ordinance and subdivision control ordinance. Cody, you want to go ahead and present this item?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. So tonight before you have 3 zoning text amendments. Just for the 2 of them are more maintenance items. One is the amendments to the residential screening strip and design standards. This is largely to kind of correct a deficiency from the original approval in our landscaping ordinance. Currently, there's a very strict language regarding the placement of the privacy fence. What we're doing is allowing it so that it gives us more leeway and leverage to kind of be able to put up the privacy fence specifically in an area where it makes sense. We've run into issues when it has to kind of conflict with some of the landscaping and accessibility of the landscaping, so this is kind of to correct that deficiency. So other than that, the composition, the screening requirements, those are not changing, it's just the placement. The second portion, that's more of a maintenance item, is for the submission of preliminary and final plat of subdivision for simultaneous review. Currently, our ordinance dictates certain parameters that allow for simultaneous review of subdivisions. There's not very many cases where they will be able to meet this. What we're proposing tonight is really just to kind of amend the zoning ordinance to allow the zoning administrator to make that call on a case-by-case basis, whether or not simultaneous review would be appropriate as opposed to separate review. I don't know if you recall from the past developments, what we've had come before you, they've all had to seek a variance to allow for simultaneous review, and that was at the recommendation of staff. Other than that, the larger item tonight is also the adult use cannabis business regulations. This is largely the same for the most part from what you saw on the May 12th or May 17th city council meeting. The major change was after we had legal counsel's Attorney McCardle's office review them. They did inform us that we couldn't do, I guess, what we were trying to attempt to do was a liquor licensing type of regulations for cannabis dispensaries in particular. The state statute is very particular. It has to be done through the zoning ordinance. So we made some changes. Now, the reason why we were doing the licensing type of agreements when it comes to city council was to kind of correct or prevent dispensaries, one of the 2 dispensary licenses that we do have in the city, from going in the kind of the more outlier areas that aren't in our commercial zoning districts where they can have a positive spillover impact on the adjacent businesses. What we did to kind of prevent that from happening was restricted geographically to just the state highways specifically, or in commercial subdivisions that are adjacent to state highways. That's of course, with all the other parameters in place, they're not allowed to be within 1,000 feet of a school, et cetera. We're also, one of the other major changes that you saw is we are proposing to allow co-location of more of the industrial or assembly cannabis use types to be able to co-locate with a dispensary. So say if you wanted to do like a craft grow and a dispensary, kind of like a brewery, I guess is a better analogy to that. This would allow them to locate in those C3, C5 areas as long as they're co-locating with a dispensary. Other than that, they'd be allowed as a conditional use only in the C5 if they were going to locate independently. We're also eliminating provision to be locating for dispensaries to locate north of McCollum Lake Road. I know I just kind of threw a lot at you. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the proposed text amendments. There is a map included as well to better reference the location.
Thanks, Doug. At this time, I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve 6C as presented. Alderman Strack?
Motion as presented.
Thank you. Alderman Harding?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Discussion by council. Alderman Glad.
Has anybody looked at, the fact that, we're talking, possibility, and correct me if I'm wrong, that, you could have people asking to have cannabis, dispensaries, in, C2 commercial?
No. Only C3 and C5.
I'm sorry, only what?
Only the C3 Community Commercial District and the C5 Highway Commercial
C3
District.
and a C5?
Correct, so that's primarily located on state routes as well as just, you can kind of see there north of the core downtown area, so all the highlighted areas in purple is where they could, potentially locate.
Okay, so we're not talking anything down Crystal Lake Road?
Correct.
Until we get way down?
Correct.
Okay.
Only state highways,
Okay.
only state.
All right, that answers my question, thank you.
Any other questions, comments by council? Alderman Santi?
Just because I can't see it on the map, Cody, when we go, eastbound on 120, so are we going all the way to Chapel Hill Road on this?
There's some, I mean, it's very hard to kind of squeeze in any of those areas, really, just
Okay.
those, kind of that segment just east of the bridge there is really the only place they could possibly locate. But again, they're gonna wanna probably locate in highly, traffic commercial areas, that's what we're seeing, and we saw on Lake in the Hills with the Rise dispensary that went in, they went into an old kind of commercial outlot for the Chen, that used to be like a Chen Chinese restaurant.
Because, yeah, it's, see where it ends, I'm not sure exactly where it ends there on the east traffic, except for right at the corner of, you have two or three parcels there at the corner of 120 and Chapel Hill Road, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions, comments by council? Alderman Glab, go ahead.
Just wanted to make, statement the fact that we're now changing an ordinance that we didn't follow before, a couple meetings ago, and I just wanted to bring that to the fact that it's now being corrected, after the fact. And that, sometimes I just wonder if, we give most of the autonomy to staff and, not to the city council. You know, we used to cover a lot more, McClatchy will remember that, back, the last time he sat here. We used to have meetings 3 times a month, and, there's plenty of, things on the agenda that we used to approve, which we don't seem to ever have to approve anymore. That's all I got.
Thank you. I'm gonna open up for public input. Is there anyone from the public that'd like to make a public comment regarding this item? See none? Clerk, please call the roll for 6C.
Alderman Stratt?
Yes.
Alderman Harding?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Devine?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
Yes.
Alderman Santi?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Next item on the agenda is 6D, is a motion to deny an ordinance granting approval of the use, variation to allow a single-family residence at 4805 West, Elm Street. Director Palarecki, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. The petitioner, G&A European Quality Pros LLC, who is the owner of record, is requesting approval of a use variation to allow a single-family residence in conjunction with a computer repair shop in the C5 Highway Commercial District at 4805 West Elm. Formerly occupied by a seamstress and utilized as a single-family residence, the subject property has remained vacant for several years. The city's non-conformance ordinance does not allow a non-conforming use to be reestablished if discontinued for 30 consecutive days. The city's comprehensive plan and development policies recommend small residential lots on Illinois 120 be consolidated with adjacent commercial lots to allow more productive use. Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended denial of the petitioner's request.
Thank you, Ross. I'm looking for a motion and a second for 6D as presented to deny an ordinance granting approval of a use variation to allow a single-family residence at 4805 West Elm Street. Alderman Miller?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. I'll second. Alderman Devine?
Yes.
Thank you. Discussion by council? Alderman Glenn?
Yeah, I just want to state that, if we were in a different type of, era to where we had all kinds of booming commercial growth, in the next 5 to 8 years, we would see, I mean, we can't even maintain what we've got right now in our major commercial districts to look at, we're gonna have this, all this grandiose down 120. We've been talking about that probably, when did we start the incentive? 12, 13 years ago? And nothing's happening, you know? I commend, Ross, and your department for the fact that we've taken some of our really, really shabby looking buildings, either where they've been raised or at least redone, because they were really, really looking bad. But I mean, let's face it, for the next 10, 15 years, we're not gonna be looking at any kind of big economic, boom over there. And I think, we've talked in the past, or at least I have mentioned the fact that, not gonna see all these big boxes coming back to McHenry. We're gonna see a lot of, possibly, if we're gonna have a lot of, growth in commercial, we're gonna see a lot of entrepreneurs. And I think this is an entrepreneur that we could take and we could help out and back up, and help them grow. And, everybody's gotta start somewhere, and with a single-family residence. And the thing is that it would be a problem if the residence was upstairs instead of down. Am I not right?
Correct.
So, I mean, we're talking because of where the levels are, and that's the only difference, why would we deny it? I mean, we're supposed to be helping people, to help us out. This is something that we're not asking, they're not asking us to pay to support business. They're just asking us to support them in helping them get started in these smaller businesses, because where do the bigger businesses come from? They come from small little entrepreneurs that started small somewhere and had to grow. And, you know, I think of Fabrique Molding, and when they first started out, they had this small little shop there, on the other side of 31 from where they're at now, and look at how they grew over the years. Well, they had to take and they had to start somewhere, small, and they grew as the city grew, and they stayed here because of the fact that, the city took care of them. I just think to some extent, it's a shame not to take and help people like this out, because, we had a business there for years that never bothered anybody, never bothered the used car lot that was next door from, the Chrysler dealership. And the place was always, kept somewhat up in a decent shape, and, I think to this, these petitioners, I think, we would see the same there, and, I don't see where it would, impact us, one bit. I don't see any major, development over there.
Any other questions, comments by council? Alderman Miller?
So I'm not speaking to the petitioner in making a motion to deny it. I'm speaking to the bigger picture of conformity and non-conformity. We've spent an entire length of time trying to get non-conformity conformed and compliant. So when you look at C3, C5, and commercial application, and now we're looking at, oh, I want to live there and run a little business, we're promoting non-conformity, which again is the issue for me, and it appears it was the issue for planning and zoning. So I have no issue with the petitioner. I have an issue with, again, our ability to say, I'm all about compliance and conformity, and that's why I'm supporting the motion to deny.
Thank you. Alderman Strack, go ahead.
So, city planner, sheriff and I have had plenty of conversations on these particular lots on the west side of town for some time. I don't know when the original decision was made to go C5 on these lots, but when you look at the size of these lots, although I agree with Alderwoman Miller in the conformity issue, I also find it extremely tough to fill these spaces in the size of these particular spaces that are on that side of town. So, Alderman Gladd's point is well taken, along with Alderwoman Miller. This is a tough situation for that whole strip of property on 120 on the west side of town. I think the bigger question that I think Alderwoman Miller's leading to is, what is the potential growth and the potential development of that area, and do we leave it C5, or do we relook at that and try to establish what that looks like in the future? Things have changed. So I think, you know, what the future looks like on that side of town could really be very different. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments by council? None? Open up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public? If you could please, if you could please step up to the podium.
I just have a question.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Say your name. Name and address.
Jude LaFrancis for All Nine Dale. I just want to know, is that Mrs. Purifado's little house, is that what you're discussing?
Yes.
Well, she had a business there, and she lived in it too. What's the problem? She had it for years there. Sorry that she died, because she was the only person who did my sewing. But that's her little house, and she lived in it, and she had a business. I never had a problem going there to see her or to go to her. I don't understand what the whole problem is. Why are you, denying anybody? I don't know what the petitioner is either. Why can't they have a little house there and live in it and have a business? That's what she had 30-some years. That's all.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this point?
My name's Gary Morley, and I have 1001 Hilltop Boulevard, McHenry. I don't know the petitioners for this here, but I do remember stories that have been told to me from my former employer, the Bjorkmans, how their parents lived above their shop on Riverside Drive, and how they made their business grow and grow by being there in the community. I think we should give these people a chance. I think, what have we got to lose here? I know it's conformity, but it's, they can make a residence out of it and keep their business going. I think I'm for that. I agree with Alderman Glad.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment regarding this item? See none? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Miller?
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Alderman Glad, go ahead.
Yeah, have we looked at possibly giving them a variance for just a certain amount of years, whether it be 5 to 7 years or something? By that time, maybe the business could grow. And another thing I want to state too is the fact that how many years has that building been empty? 5, 6 years now? 2 years? 2 or 3. So, we're talking about filling the building. I just think we need to look into it, again, I'm not crazy about variances, but, there are times that we need to look at variances and try to use a common sense approach to where we're going. If we had people knocking on our doors for major development, that'd be great, and maybe we wouldn't want to start looking at these things. But again, if we're looking at a 5 to 7 year and readdress it at that time, I think it's a wise decision. You come over the bridge and you see the water tower, and what does it say, the heart of the fox? Well, what does that mean? Just the location is the heart of the fox, or do we have a heart here in McHenry? So, I'll leave it at that.
So again, this is a motion to deny. That's what you're voting if you vote yes.
Alderman Strike, you want to go ahead and make that motion?
Mayor?
Or change your motion? Alderman Santi, go ahead.
Yes, it's a tough decision, but we're here to make tough decisions, okay? And staff help me out, but when did we make the decision, how many years ago? I think it was a hair salon on 120, and they wanted, they also wanted to live there. I believe it was a hair salon.
We've denied 2 similar requests on West Route 120.
And staff, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've had this on the books for how many years in regards to change of property ownership with conforming?
It's a vacancy thing, so if the non-conformity exists for 30 days, it's eliminated, it cannot be reestablished.
And the vacancy has been there for 2 to 3 years?
Correct. It has not been used as a residential home for 2 to 3 years.
Okay, and so, that's an established, that's a fact, that's there. So, it's a tough statement to say, but it's buyer beware. That's, you know, because, and we've made that, it was tough, there's still a couple of issues out there, and we're trying to move forward on a couple other pieces of property. If we get there, so be it. Yeah, these are tough decisions. I mean, I'll leave it at that.
I don't know.
So the real problem is we have the wrong property and the wrong zoning, or the wrong zoning on the wrong property, because you have a single-family home that's sitting in a C5 zoning. So, and it's C5 zoning because you have a highway. You know, so unfortunately, when the house was put there, it was a 2-lane road. And now all of a sudden, it's a 4-lane highway with a house that's zoned C5. So the reality is, we need to relook at that, like Alderman Strack says, and say, is that really what it should be out there? Is that really what's gonna develop out there? Or do we really think it is C5 and it should never be a house? Because that's really the issue. It was a 2-lane road, it was residential when those houses were all built there, and now all of a sudden it's a 4-lane road, and we called it C5. And just because it's been vacant for 2 years, it now is non-conforming. So I'm respectfully denying, because P&Z did their job. But it's a bigger problem than just respectfully denying it, because that's not the only residential home, doink, 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 sitting there. It's not the goose. We have a bunch of ducks. So ultimately, what do we want to do? Because this isn't going to be the only time we're going to have this issue in front of us. Do I withdraw my motion? Do we send it back to P&Z and let them relook at that corridor? Do we do something else? But we have a petitioner here that obviously is asking us for a decision. This is not going to be the only time this issue comes to us, because we have, what, 5 or 6 houses right there, right on the road? Some of them are residences, some of them are businesses. Director Polarecki?
Yeah, I mean, what we're doing with the staff recommendation is pretty much following our comprehensive plan, which says eliminate residential uses in the C5 corridor. So, that's why it was presented the way it was presented. I will tell you that up to the real estate sale, Cody and I both fielded a lot of phone calls about this property, and can it be used as a residence, or can it not be? The petitioners were made aware that it could not be at the sale of the property, and then chose to come forward, even though we said that we would recommend denial. So, that's kind of where that stands. And I also state that Mrs. Barafato, who previously owned it, she was the one that actually rezoned it to C5. She petitioned the city to rezone that property to C5 in 1990.
In the letter.
Yeah, it's in the letter. So, I mean, it was the property owner at that time that did petition the city to rezone. Thank you, Ross.
Yeah, Cody, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add one thing, it's not that this property can't be used, it can be used for a variety of uses, it's just, taken into account with the single-family home status, and the city council's past votes on these properties, it became, at least as staff, we thought it was clear the direction that, the city wanted to take for these properties.
Thank you. Alderman Santi, go ahead.
No, I just want to follow up from Alderwoman Miller and also Alderman Strack is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think those two have definitely brought up the big picture item here. And the big picture item has to get resolved at some point in the future. I get it. Okay. And the people to our left and right in regards to staff, guess what? It's on their plate. And, if there's some changes, some adjustments, it should come back as then a recommendation to us. I don't feel that we're gonna solve, Meadow on 122 Ringwood Road tonight. And I believe, when I'm listening to what your statements are, is that it sounds like a big picture thing, and I agree. It's a big picture thing. This is one item in that picture. And, we've moved forward on on 2 or 3 other locations in the city in regards to this exact issue. And, unless there's something that comes back to us, via staff or via planning and zoning first, then, I'm willing to sit and listen and understand and comprehend at that point. Thank you.
Alderman Glenn, go ahead.
Yeah, all I'm saying is I don't think staff could tell me that, they feel that within the next 3 to 5 years, you're gonna find, some big development coming along there. And I understand that eventually, we're gonna hopefully see somebody wanting to invest, down there. I don't think that's a spot that you're gonna see a big redevelopment to start. So, again, I think if we go to, whether it's a 3 to 5 to 7 year, time frame to allow this, and readdress it at that time, and then just go to every 3 years afterwards, or what, depending on what's going on economically within our city, at least we're not sitting with an empty building. And I think that's the way, we need to look at a lot of these things. Yes, we have ordinances, yes, we have ideas of what we'd like to see, but we have to use a common sense approach to a lot of these situations. And I think a common sense approach to this would be to, let's get the building filled, and if that's what it is, residential and commercial, then let's do it for, with a time frame. I'm not saying just blanket, let's do a time frame. And we can always, take a look at it a couple years down the road, and we'll know where we're at, as far as economic growth. But at least we've got something there.
I'll just say, and Alderman Glad, you're always one to follow the ordinances and follow the way we do things in the city, and then on one term, you go ahead and go the other direction in certain situations. So we need to all, staff is doing their job to follow the way the council wants to go on things, the way the ordinances are written. We've also been in touch with this petitioner prior to the purchase. The seller was honestly, I've had tons of conversations with the seller of the property prior to this as well. I mean, at what point do we let staff do their job and they knew about this property? I mean, I don't understand what the issue is here.
The issue is, Mayor, the fact that we make the decision here, not staff, and that's why it's here for us to make that decision.
Sure.
The ultimate decision. And yes, we rely a lot on what staff takes and what their background and what they research and everything else. But again, not everything is out of a book or off of the internet. Sometimes you just have to use your common sense logic of what makes sense and which way you need to go. Because, yes, I'm the one that got the economic incentive started on the other side of Meadow all the way to Ringwood Road years ago. And what has it done for us? Nothing.
Well, to be clear, we have met with several developers that are looking at Meadow and down 120. So
Okay,
we
well, that's
have,
great.
Since I've been elected,
because I want to see it
multiple
before we see Wonder Lake with their shopping area down there on 120 going.
Oh, that's a small little area.
Not that small little area. So all I'm saying is let's beat them to the punch. But again, I don't see where this property affects any of that at this particular time.
Real quick, one quick question. They're allowed to run their business out of that location, correct?
Yes, this is not, there is no conditional use required for a computer repair company.
Okay, so the
conditional use-
business can run out of it?
Yes, the business is allowed to be there, it's the residential use.
Understood. I just want to make sure everyone understood that.
So if we took and we gave them an economic incentive, then I guess then they could open up the business and they wouldn't have to worry about the income from the residential. Or maybe they could take and build a second story on there so that then they could take and have their residential. It's still gonna be residential. If they did that, they'd still have residential and business. The only difference is that it's on one level instead of two.
I'm done with my question.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Any other comments, questions by council before we go for a roll call?
So remember, an aye is a vote to deny the request, and if you decide to abstain for some reason, that abstention will go with the majority of whoever does vote.
Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Miller.
Yes.
Alderman Devine.
Yes.
Alderman Strack. Abstain. Alderman Harding.
No.
Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Alderman Glab.
No.
Alderman Santee.
Yes.
5-2.
Right, tonight. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 6E, is a motion to approve an ordinance for a use variation to allow an open sales lot for automobile sales at 4502 West Crystal Lake Road. Director Palarekin, want to go ahead and present this item?
Certainly. Petitioner Kevin Nalick, who is the contract purchaser, is also in the audience. He's the owner of South Elgin Auto Sales, is requesting approval of a use variance to allow an open sales lot for the operation of a used car dealership in the C2 Neighborhood Commercial District at 4502 West Crystal Lake Road. Formerly occupied by First Midwest Bank, with the drive-through, the subject property has remained vacant for approximately 1 year. Located within the boundaries of the Crystal Lake Road sub-area plan, several conditions of approval have been added that address lighting, signage, landscaping, and operations. Those are listed in there. Does anybody need me to read those 10 conditions? Okay. At the Planning and Zoning Commission, 4 members of the public spoke out against the development. Planning and Zoning Commission discussed largely revolved around how the proposed use would fit in with the surrounding character. Planning and Zoning Commission agreed with staff's assessment outlined in the staff report and recommended approval of the request. It was 5-1 vote, subject to the conditions outlined in this agenda.
Thank you, Russ. Appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and ask for a motion and second to approve 6E as presented. Alderman McClatchy?
Yeah, I just want to say that, I'm not against the, used car, dealerships around town, but I just don't like that area. It's just, it's right up there with the gas station. I know you hate to hear it. But that's it.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion to approve 6E as presented? Alderman Strack?
I'll make the motion as presented.
Thank you. Second? No? Alderman Santee?
I will second the motion.
Thank you. Open up for discussion by council. Alderman Devine?
I would agree with Alderman McClatchy about the location. I don't have a problem with the business, I just don't like the location.
Thank you. Alderman Glab, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely the location. I mean, if you look at the history of why we have any business over there at all, it's the fact that that was basically from mid-60s when the annexation came in, and then development, it was approved there for, the intention was to have neighborhood businesses to take and service, especially with Spring Oaks, with the senior area, where it's supposed to be a senior area. And we've got an area there that a year from now, we don't even know what's gonna happen when West takes and starts bringing all their sophomores and juniors and seniors from east over, because that hasn't happened yet, and that's going to add a lot of traffic at 2 different times of the year, of the day. And is this the type of business that we want to take and start up in that area? I mean, what kind of a precedence are we starting? We've got a garage that they want to store their cars in there. Does anybody know, is that got a sprinkler system in there?
It's not required to be.
It's not required to be, but it should probably be.
It's not required by code.
Well, again, common sense approaches. It could affect East Hardworks, it could affect Dark Quarters, it could affect North Fox over there. If you had some fallacious catastrophe that, you know, we've had battery plants and warehouses blow up and whatnot. You never know what's gonna happen. When you're storing gasoline vehicles, anything can happen. You know, I don't care what they say, how much protection you have or whatever, there's still that potential. And again, like I say, yes, we want growth in this town, we also want sensible common sense growth. There's plenty of places down 31 and 120 that we have for used car lots. And I just don't feel that, giving a variance on, you know, to a C5 type use in a C2 makes it much sense at all.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments by council? Alderman Santi, go ahead.
I've got a couple questions for the petitioner.
Sure. Please state your name and address for public record.
Kevin Ellick, 815 Schneider Drive, South Elgin, 60177.
Thank you.
You've got a dealership now in South Elgin?
That's accurate.
How long have you been there?
Since 2015.
Okay. Now, when I read through this and I went through the minutes, so explain internet sales.
Right, so we don't rely on any, like, your typical car dealer stuff, signage, balloons, any of that stuff. It's all internet-based marketing, ads. So it's basically, the location would just be used as a sales office. You would just show up, maybe drive the car if you want, maybe not, do the paperwork, and you're out. And I work by appointment only, so the traffic flow will be much less than it ever was as a bank.
What are your hours? I know it's in 7 to 9.
7 to 9 is what is allotted, but most of my business primarily takes place between like 10 and 6.
Sure.
Is the majority of the
Gary, just a nod, are you open until 9 on weekdays?
I'm available.
I'm sorry, I'm talking to Dave Hardwater.
We're open 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock on weekdays?
We have been open at 9 before, pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, okay, thank you, thanks. Sorry about that, Kevin, I apologize, I just wanted to try to get a reference point here. And also, you know, just to reiterate this, there's no ongoing repairs gonna be there.
No repairs on site, no,
You're not even gonna do oil changes?
No oil changes, everything is outsourced to other local small businesses.
What about washing cars?
Nope, outsourced to detailing as well. It's literally just the sales.
Cars get dirty in a day or two, you know, with dust and stuff, Kevin, I mean.
Right,
so-
yeah, if anything, like, if something like that were to be requested, you would just, you know, run it to the gas station car wash. If it was just if it was a quick toucher-upper, the mask, like the buff, the wash, the wax gets done by a detail shop.
And what size, tentatively, what size is your staff?
Staff is me, and sometimes, my father when my mom can't, take them anymore.
Okay, all right. And according to Wade and these 10 bullet points that you've agreed to.
Yes.
Is that standard parking lot that was on the north side of the bank, and then the drive-through, which is on the south side, there will be no cars that are part of your internet sales that are gonna be placed out there?
Yeah, nothing will be there overnight. The customers can park in that front lot for the 1 hour maximum that it usually takes, and it's usually much less than that. And the rest will be in the front of that lot that's all the way in the background.
Okay, and so the cars will be placed in that back, I define it as like west and southwest or northwest area, that parking lot just next to the warehouse that's rolled, and cars will be parked also inside the warehouse?
That's accurate, yes.
How many cars can you put in the warehouse?
You know,
I don't know if you know.
Yeah, I don't have the solid answer, but maybe 15.
Okay.
I think.
How many cars do you have today in South Elgin?
About 30.
30?
Yeah, about 30.
So potentially you're looking at 15 in, 15 out, something like that?
That's accurate.
Okay. And you said you make sales by appointments?
Yes. Yeah, in all of our advertisement, it says that we work by appointment when the customer contacts, whether it's via Messenger or email or phone call, we explicitly, explain to them that they just need to set a time, a day and a time that they'd like to show.
So, you know, it begs asking the hypothetical question, what happens, you got cars out there, I know whether they're not sitting next to they're not in those main parking lots facing the road, but I'm sure you get this now, you're gonna get people pulling in there, looking for a car, and they don't know you, they've never made a phone call, they just see the cars.
Right.
What
Well,
happens then?
Well, if they walk in, I mean, you can't avoid every situation. If you do have an occasional walk-in, you know, I will do my best to accommodate them, you know, as much as I can. But also those cars are gonna be almost 200 feet from the road. Signage is gonna be minimal.
They're gonna see them.
Yeah.
People are gonna see them.
Yeah, yeah. Deal with a case-by-case basis, but try to minimize it with clear marketing practices.
Okay. I mean, in essence, you could, sir, give me a call, or I can make an appointment with you, but it's gonna be a few minutes later, or whatever.
Of
course, man,
That would be an
whoever
option.
it is. And then just real quickly, what have your sales been annually?
Considering 2020 with COVID, our sales were just north of $500,000.
Okay.
Generated about 40,000, just under 40,000 in sales tax.
And I believe this was also in the minutes, but just to make sure I understand it, you sold how many cars?
Well, this year we're on track for, if it goes, we're probably somewhere between 2 and 250 this year.
2 to 250, and annual sales somewhere slightly above $500,000?
Yeah, well, last year's volume number was a little lower. So
What was
this
the
year-
total units then from last year?
Just over 115, I think, 120.
From last year?
From last year, yeah, so it's a bit busier right now.
Okay. Thank you, that's all I have, thank you.
Alderman McClatchy?
How many cars do you plan on turning over, say, in a month?
Well, you know, obviously as many as possible to generate as much revenue. But I would say that on average, we're doing about 25 cars.
In a month?
Yeah, roughly. You know, it really fluctuates with everything, with the seasons, with the tax season, with all kinds of different varying factors. But I'd say that's a good goal.
That's it.
Thank you. Alderman Strack, go ahead.
Just one question for you. So potentially, you have how many cars on your lot in South Elgin now?
About 30.
About 30. So would you anticipate that that's about the same inventory level you
Yeah, I'd
have
have
here?
to try and maintain right around that number.
Okay. So potentially, and I know one of the other aldermen has asked the same question, probably 10 cars inside and maybe 20 outside?
Yeah.
Is your 30 number including the interior?
That would be
vehicle?
accurate, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just needed to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions by council? Robert?
Can you talk about how you get those cars to the facility?
Sure. I mainly source my cars from new car trade-ins within a 100-mile circle of my current location, and they're individual pickup. You know, I will try and buy 3 or 4 in one geographic region, go with a couple of drivers, bring them back. There's no like transporter trucks or any heavy equipment or anything that would be disruptive to the community. It's literally just another car on the road. You would blend right in and not even notice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Santo, go ahead.
I believe this is more of a staff question. What exactly is zoned neighborhood commercial?
It's the C3 zoning. It's a lower intense commercial use than like a C5 or a C4. Neighborhood commercial, it's meant to go next to neighborhoods.
153, but page 153.
153?
Mhm.
Okay, just so I understand this.
Convenience type store.
Ace Hardware is a neighborhood commercial type of business?
Pretty much.
Yeah, okay. So if there's a dentist office down the street, and he has customers from Lincoln Hills, is that defined as like a neighborhood zone commercial? That's office down there? At the corner of Main and Chris Lake, Main and Chris Lake Blacktop?
Main and Bridgewood.
Yeah, where the.
Conlon and Thompson?
Yeah.
Talking about that.
Yeah.
So you know what that's zoned?
I think.
Main and,
Oh, wait,
Crystal Lake Road.
It's on there, Main and Crystal Lake Road.
Conlon and Thompson?
No, it doesn't go far enough, right?
I believe so. Either C4 or C5 down there.
It is, okay, different, okay, my mistake on that. I just didn't quite understand that concept.
Any other questions?
I have another questions right now.
All right. Any other questions, comments by council? No?
So in essence, with your discussion, if we're looking at the photo of your site here, if approved, and someone were driving by, they would see no difference in the old bank building, because all the activity would be back essentially in the warehouse.
That's accurate. The only thing you would see different from the bank building itself is the sign that's by the road, just have a vinyl decal on it. That would be it.
And you said you're the only staff person, and maybe your mom and dad?
My father helps me out, yeah, when I need another body.
So help me understand.
Sure.
Just because I'm
Sure.
me. So you do 25 cars a month in Elgin, 25 cars a month up here in McHenry is what you're hoping. That's 50 appointments. Not every appointment is a sale. How are you gonna manage that? Not that I'm logistically driven, but.
I am going to be downsizing, South Elgin's to basically just a satellite location where I can meet a customer on a lower basis, otherwise everything will be conducted out of here.
So you're moving your business to McHenry?
That's accurate.
Okay. Mom and dad are coming with you?
Dad's retired, so.
Okay. So, no longer selling cars in Elgin?
No, well, that part is still in the works. If I can work out a lease for a very small portion of what I have currently to make accommodations for customers down there, again, by appointment, I will do that. But if, as of now, the plan is moving the business to McHenry.
And did you look at other sites besides this site?
Several, many sites.
And
The unique layout of offering the indoor showroom with the parking that's set back is actually ideal for me. And then just having a little sales office, which would be the actual bank building, is literally an ideal setup.
And what makes this appealing versus a highway setting?
I do not need any of the highway setting stuff because all my marketing is online. Being near or on the highway is just more expensive with more liability. I don't, with all my promotions and stuff are via the internet, so being off the highway is not an issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To be clear, Carolyn, if you can help, or if you, maybe you know, the sales tax.
Yeah.
What portion comes to the city regarding these internet
My
sales?
understanding, it sounds like the sale is actually happening in McHenry at that location.
That is accurate.
Yes, so we will get our typical sales tax on a vehicle,
Okay.
which is not including local sales tax.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. Any other questions, comments by council? I'll move on.
Yeah, the question I've got is you're talking about moving out of South Elgin versus here. Why?
Mainly this building is really ideal. I've been looking for something structured like this for me for a while. Also, I'm just towards the end of my current lease with that property. So it'd be a good time for me to do something if I planned on doing something like this, which I would like to, which would be moving from a leased property to an owned property.
So it's a matter of convenience right now more than anything else, to have something that's all set up.
Not convenient, well, it's unique, this property is unique, in the fact that it offers the warehouse and the sales office. It's not the common property, and with the sales contract, they won't allow another bank to move in here, they won't allow this, they won't allow that, there's a whole thing, that this property won't be able to be used for, per their sales terms.
Alderman Miller, go ahead.
So, All the cars are gonna be in the warehouse.
And also in the inventory parking area.
Okay. So what are you gonna use the bank building for?
Just the sales office, like where you would sit down and sign paperwork.
You're not gonna sublet that out, nobody else is gonna use it?
No, it would be, a little desk, TV for background noise and sign.
Little desk and some background noise.
Yeah, it would be pretty, it's very, nothing exquisite, it's just gonna be nice, clean, sales office where you just go in and sign the paperwork for purchasing the vehicle.
Thank you.
Alderman Santi, go ahead.
Kevin, I'm trying to find it in the minutes from planning and zoning, but, you made this statement that most of your sales come out of this area?
No, I didn't say most, I said a lot. A lot of my customers are McHenry-based. Johnsburg, I've gotten several customers. From the northern suburbs, from Camaro to my current location, is very common for people that drive straight down 31 to me. So that's when I kind of started looking in this general direction, and I also, when I found this property.
You said you've been shopping around for property for?
About a year and a half, casually for like the first 6 months, and then more aggressively in the last 6.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? None? All right, you may have a seat. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm gonna open up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public that'd like to make a public comment regarding this item?
Raymond LaFrancis, 409 North Dale. I know this property, I've been in this town since 1971. This is a nice town. We've made, the councils have made some good decisions. They've also made some bad ones, in my estimation. You've turned down and denied one variance this evening. You're looking at approving this one. I think there's more going on here than, I think the people in that particular area are not looking for that type of business, although it's considered, looks like a fairly small business, but I think that's not what the people in the area that I go through, usually once or twice a week. I just don't think it's an area that this is the type of business McHenry needs. We've got so many car dealerships, and I know this is not the typical car dealership, but I think there's other things that this city could use outside of cars. And it's just something that I would like you to consider. I think there's just some more thought that maybe has to go into this, and I just I would oppose this particular business coming in.
Thank you.
My name's Gary Morley, 1001 Hilltop Boulevard. Also manager of the Ace Hardware in McHenry, and I had an opportunity to talk to several aldermen and express my opinion and our owner's opinion about this. We don't believe, not that he wouldn't be a good fit for McHenry, we don't believe that this piece of property would be a good fit for him. We're in a residential area, suburban residential community, and it's just, what else are we gonna do along First Lake Road there? We do this. So, we just think if we need to make a judgment, I would rather not. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make a public comment?
My name is Todd Lowenheim. My address 2206 Colby Drive, McHenry, 501 the zip. It is unincorporated McHenry, so I unfortunately not able to vote in any of the McHenry elections. Certainly wish I could, but I have been a business owner here in McHenry for the past 29 years. I've been living in McHenry County since I was 2 years old, so the last 56 years. I drive down Crystal Lake Road every day, Lillian. My vision of driving down that, and I think of many of you too, that's not what you expect to see. You know, you got your family hardware store, you know, the helpful people, the hardware men, and post office, gas station, and the high school. There's so many different lots in the area, you know, that are vacant, that's more suited, I feel, for this type of business. It's just wrong. I hope you guys all look at towards with your voters. If you were to ask your voters on a percentage basis, what would say yes, or what would say, hey, no, that doesn't belong here. So I hope you guys make the right decision and do listen to your voters, who they are, and I wish, you know, I could be one of them, but I'm not. So it's just something that's not right. He said a majority of his clients come from Johnsburg, McHenry. There's hundreds of car dealerships between here and South Elgin. Internet sales, what makes that unique? Everybody does internet sales. Cars will be parked in the back of the lot off the road, but he did say during the business hours, there will be cars parked up front, moved in the back. It's just not right, and I hope you guys agree. So,
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, members of the public want to make a public comment?
My name is Danielle Miller, 1411 North Green Street, McHenry. I just wish, you know, to, have the city council consider that this could be a detrimental to the neighborhood, and it provides no jobs to the city. I understand it will bring in sales tax revenue, but again, there are a lot of other parts of town that have, existing unoccupied spaces, and I really hope that you consider that.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who would like to make a public comment? All right, see none? At this time, August, you want to go ahead?
I just, I heard a statement from some of those people. I want to make sure everybody understands, and I understand it. If he were to take cars during the day and pull them up into those lots, then what happens?
Well, it's one of the criteria outlined here. One
So
of the
that's a condition that
he cannot.
can't have.
He can't. Now, obviously, if he's got a sale that's going on and they pull the car around and the person gets in it to test drive it,
Sure,
it's going to
that's
go through
understood.
that lot over there, and he will at no time be allowed to park any vehicles for sale in those two front lots or by the building.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Alderman Glab?
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to bring up is I know staff had mentioned the fact that the building's been empty for a year, and actually, I believe it closed in January.
Yeah, I think it's a little less than a year.
About 6 months, so. But another angle that I don't think we've ever looked at too is the fact that, is this a property that, considering the growth that we've seen in that area, is that property good for redevelopment as far as tearing that bank building down and seeing whether it be a shopping center or condos or something else, over in that area versus, this type of a business, and, play the same way as we looked at, the petitioner, for the, one lot, on 120, that, for redevelopment, you wind up with a little car dealership here, that could put the kibosh on a possibility of potential redevelopment over there, being that, Lillian's a minor arterial road and, Crystal Lake Road. It could hamper that, redevelopment, down the road, so. We all wanna see something go there. We don't wanna see an empty building, but we wanna see something that would fit right in that neighborhood and in that community.
Thank you. Alderman Sansom?
A petitioner comes to us conditional on us or the council in passing tonight in regards to if that sale goes through. So there's two sides to this, that you've got a petitioner that's willing to invest, into this city and making the purchase. And this is what's in front of us tonight. It could have been a small shopping center, could have been a Starbucks, could have been a lot of other things, but this is what this gentleman brought to us tonight, and this is what we're voting on. The properties, and I'll say it this way, the properties only sat there for under a year. Now, we have a lot of buildings in town that have been sitting around for many, many years, and there's no movement there. So, is it a gamble that he doesn't come through tonight, and then maybe there's a buyer in a month? But it might happen in 10 years too. We don't know the future. So this is what's in front of us. I get it that it doesn't, my numbers would be in the hundreds. I could count up different areas of town that I feel that we could have possibly a better business or location for something. I mean, nothing's perfect. So we have to just measure this and we have to look at it to what is in front of us, and is this, and one of the last things I always think about is what's best for the city as a whole. And you can't just look at, just individual portions of the city. You've got to, how is this going to grow and how is this going to develop? Is it going to be positive or is it going to be negative in 10 years? Honestly, don't know that, but this is what's sitting in front of us tonight, and this is what we have to make a decision on. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Out of curiosity, does anyone have the information on what's allowed the use of this property by First Midwest Bank? As we all know, there's been restrictions on many properties in the city of McHenry over the years, and we're still sitting on several due to the restrictions. And I think it's good for the public to know. Now, I'm not saying I'm opposed or for this. I'm just saying what is those restrictions. Doug, do you have those?
I don't have them.
Do you have those restrictions, sir?
I will be able to provide them. I can look through my sales, they're in my sales business.
I'd just be curious whether this passes or not. I think it's good for all of us to know what those restrictions are, so Doug, if you can give those. Thank you. All right, and last chance for public comment, or city council comment, sorry. All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Stratt?
Yes.
Alderman Sampe?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
No.
Alderman McClatchy?
No.
Alderman Harding?
No.
Alderman Devine?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
No.
It's denied. Sir, so, we apologize that it got denied, but I'd like to work with you in the city, so if we could set up a meeting following this, tomorrow, I'll give you a call, and let's have a conversation about other sites, and we'll do our best to help.
Okay.
Help you, if you don't mind, all right?
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, no discussion items for tonight's meeting. I would ask that the public, we are going to be going into executive session, so everyone in the public would have to exit the council chambers, and we will let you come back in after executive session, say about 15 to 20 minutes.
Can I get a motion to go into closed session, please?
You're the mayor.
Wow. Could the mayor please ask for a motion to go into closed session?
I will make that motion. All presented by Monty Johnson, our deputy clerk.
Second, Alderman Strack.
Alderman Sampe?
Yes.
Alderman Strack?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Devine?
Yes.
Alderman Harding?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can you give me a minute to set stuff up?
No, go ahead.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Doug, you want to walk?
Oh, sure.
Definitely, I've been throwing them out for this.
I was gonna throw them in here.
Anybody need water?
Who's here, who's up? Yeah, they can all.
We also need water?
I got it, I'm good. Yeah. What happens if 5B had passed? Wait, 5B. Yep, it passed, yep.